Hey everybody, welcome back to my coverage of the PogChamps 3 tournament. This is the second Consolation quarterfinals match, Pokimane versus Myth. Pokimane took the first game. If you missed it, check it in the info card up there. Come back and watch this game. But yes, Myth does need to win this game in order to take us to a tiebreaker and avoid elimination. He is the underdog both in rating and in the seed. So we'll just see if he can do that or if Pokimane will take the match here. And let's get right into the game. We have Myth with the white pieces goes for e4, and Pokimane as black continues her plan with black as she's been doing. She's been playing the French defense as black normally, and she goes for it in this game as well. We have d4, d5, and now an exchange French. E takes d5, e takes d5, knight to f3, knight c6, bishop b5. Both players doing very well so far, and now bishop d7. Not the best move, but it is a developing move by Pokimane, so I guess it's okay here. We have castles and bishop d6 continuing to develop, bishop g5, and now knight g to e7, and bishop e3 from Myth. And this move, this bishop e3 move just does not make any sense at all. You know, you just move your bishop to g5, so what's the point of moving it back to e3? It's not even doing anything on this diagonal. This pawn is already defended twice. It's only even attacked once, and you can always remove this defender if you need to. So, or remove this attacker, I mean. So yeah, this bishop e3 move makes no sense to me. c4 would have been better, striking in the center, or even rook to e1. Either of those moves would have been perfectly great. But we have bishop to e3 from Myth, and now a6 from Pokimane, kicking away that bishop. We have bishop to a4, and now castles from Pokimane. We have knight b to d2, continuing to develop, and now this actually disconnects the queen from the pawn, which is important because there's also this undefended bishop on a4 and a bishop on d2 or d7 that is looking at this bishop. So it opens up this little tactic for Pokimane where she can win a pawn after knight takes d4. And the idea is if you take this knight, then your bishop hangs on a4. And, you know, this tactic didn't work before because white could have taken with the queen and defended the bishop. And if you go for this bishop on d7, then first, black takes on f3, and after queen takes f3 because it's check, then you take this bishop, and black is going to be up a pawn here. So Pokimane could have won a pawn like that, but she plays knight to f5 instead, just going after this bishop, which is a fine move as well. If you don't see this tactic, knight to f5 is probably one of the next best moves. We have c4 from Myth, striking in the center. Very good from him, and Pokimane picks up that bishop pair. Knight takes e3. We have f takes e3, and now d takes c4 from Pokimane. Knight takes c4, recapturing, very good, and rook to e8. Pokimane getting her rook on that half-open file. We have rook to e1. Myth over-defends his e-pawn, so that's good of him, and we have now bishop to g4 from Pokimane, pinning this knight. We have knight takes d6 now. Now Myth picks up Pokimane's bishop pair, and will Pokimane take back with the pawn or the queen? She takes back with the queen, which is definitely the right call. You don't want to give yourself this isolated pawn. And also you're just developing your queen and connecting your rooks. We have h3 from Myth, and now bishop takes f3 from Pokimane. And this is a fine trade. I think this is a fine trade, you know. This knight is arguably going to be more active than this bishop. And I don't know. I'm fine with trading here, and also I'm fine with not trading here. If Pokimane wanted to play a move like bishop h5 or even bishop back to e6, I think either of those moves would have been fine. But we have bishop takes f3, which is also totally fine. And here Myth plays g takes f3, which is a huge, you know, positional blunder. You're just ripping open your king side for no reason, and your king is going to be very unsafe. So here you have to play queen takes f3. Like, honestly, it's probably better to just, I mean, I don't know. It's probably even, I would argue that it's better to just move your queen than it is to take this bishop and totally rip open your king safety. You can argue with me about that, but I think there is an argument to be made there. You know, when you play g takes f3, your king is just wide open, especially this queen g3 check. You know, you need to win this game as Myth. So even if Poki gets a perpetual check, you know, just keep your king safe is what I'm trying to say. We do have this queen g3 move from Poki, queen g3 check, and now it's going to be really tough for Myth to win this. If Poki gets any perpetual, she can draw the game and win the match. We have king to f1 now, and queen takes h3, king to f2, and it looks like there might be a perpetual with like queen to h2 and queen to h1, but the king can escape over here like this to d3, and the king can get kind of away over here. The king is still very exposed, but there's no perpetual here. So instead we have queen to h4 check, and now king to g2. Maybe king to e2 was better practically, but I mean, everything is going to be losing here as white. Your king just has no safety. And now we have this really nice rook lift by Pokimane, rook to e6, getting another piece into the mix. When you're attacking, you have to remember, you know, you can't really attack with just one piece. You sometimes got to get more pieces into the mix. You know, if your attack is not strong enough, you have to remember you have more pieces a lot of the time. Not always, obviously, but a lot of the time you can bring more pieces in and increase the strength of your attack. So this is a fantastic move, fantastic plan by Pokimane, and we'll see if Myth can survive. We have rook to h1, attacking that queen, and this does allow this rook to g6 move, and the king is forced back to the first rank. Pokimane can now pick up this rook, and here, I mean, you could go for rook g2, you could go for queen g2, but the simplest win is simply trading queens and just play this up a rook. So you're up a rook, you have this past h pawn. This is going to be a very easy endgame win. So Pokimane could have gone for this. What was it? She could have gone for this rook to g6 move, but instead she went for queen to g5 instead, which is also fine. We have, because it's now forking this, her plan is to pick up this e-pawn basically. We have king to f2, and Pokimane now picks up that e-pawn, queen takes e3 check, king back to g2, and Pokimane picks up another pawn with queen takes d4 check, and this also forces the queen trade, because if you don't trade queens here, then you are going to lose this bishop. But Myth plays a super tricky move here, which is queen to b1, and it might be hard to see, but this queen is attacking this h-pawn all the way across the board. So here is Pokimane. You definitely have to be careful about this queen takes h7 check. Luckily, it's not leading to mate, so Pokimane does take this bishop. I'm not sure if she saw or calculated this queen takes h7 move, but black is still going to be doing fine here, but white can definitely get some counterplay and make things complicated. So let's see if Myth goes for that. Well, he does play queen takes h7 check. This was the idea behind queen to b1. And after king to f8, queen h8 check, and king to e7, this is now a skewer. So white is going to be picking up the rook. However, the problem with this is after queen takes a8, now white's king just has no safety once again. This is actually a mate in 9. The computer is announcing mate in 9. Obviously, it's hard for a human to see that, but basically black's attack is still going to be very strong, and it starts with queen to c2 check. After queen to c2, Myth played king to f1, and here Pokimane actually has a mate in 2, starting with queen to e2 check, and after king to g1, there's rook to g6, and this is checkmate. So Pokimane definitely could have gone for this checkmate, but instead she just goes for the free pawn on b2, queen takes b2, and the king on e7 here is weirdly safe. White cannot check this king at all, so black will still have time to checkmate white as long as they don't let white get too much of an attack. We do have rook to d1 now from Myth, and once again Pokimane had this queen to e2 checkmate, but instead she takes another pawn with queen takes a2. We have queen takes b7, and now Pokimane plays queen to e2 check. So will we see this checkmate from Pokimane after king to g1? We should see rook to g6, which would be checkmate, but Pokimane plays the tempting move, which is just picking up this free rook on d1, because it was this fork. You did get this fork, and this is probably what Pokimane was thinking when she played queen to e2 in the first place. So Pokimane picks up this rook with queen takes d1 check. We have king to g2, and rook e2 check, king to g3, and now Pokimane picks up this second rook. She was deflecting the king away from the defense of this h1 rook with this rook to e2 tactic. We have we have f4 now, and here Pokimane has a simple mate in 2. I thought Myth was going to play queen takes c7 there, but I don't know why I thought that. he played f4, and here Pokimane has a mate in 2, starting with queen to g1. If the king goes to f3, then there's a couple mates. There's rook to e3, there is knight to d4, and there's even queen to g2. And if the queen comes to the h-file, then there is rook to h2, which is checkmate. After Pokimane does not go for this. Instead, she goes for queen f1, and now her idea is she's setting up this ladder mate here. And so after rook to g2 and queen to h1, it will be checkmate. However, this queen to f1 move is not a check, so it does allow white to give black some more checks. So first, black has to escape the checks. So Myth definitely starts with queen takes c7 check. We have king to e6, and now queen takes c6 check. King to e7, queen c7 check. King to f6, queen c6 check, king to f5, and queen c5 check, king to e4. And this is actually a blunder, and now white can make a draw, but Myth would still lose the match with a draw, so he has to win. But you shouldn't be bringing your king really up the board in the first place. You should really just keep it behind these pawns where the queen cannot check. But yes, Myth does have a perpetual check here in this position. I'm not going to show it because there's a lot of variations, but Myth continues with queen to e7 check. We have king to d3 now, and queen takes f7, and this is not a check, so this does allow Pokimane to get her checkmating sequence that she was going for, starting with rook to g2, and after king to h4 Myth played in the game, we have queen to h1, which is checkmate. So Pokimane takes the second game and the match, so she will be moving on to the semifinals of the consolation bracket. Here are those standings for you. Pokimane will be playing the winner of Mr. Beast versus Michelle Kari, and Nico will be playing the winner of Tubbo versus Code Miko in the semifinals. Yeah, pretty good chess from both players. I mean, this is the consolation bracket, so the chess is not going to be as high quality as the championship bracket. But I mean, I think everybody had fun here. So I hope Myth continues to play chess, and I hope Pokimane continues her chess too. We'll see if she makes it to the finals. And I don't think I have anything else to say about this game or this match. So thank you for watching. Check out my PogChamps 3 playlist up there, and check out another chess video over there. Stay awesome, stay subscribed, like and subscribe. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.